Welcome back, y'all, to Wiki Reads, where we read Wikipedia pages for you, to you. Today, we're talking about the iPod Classic. What a joy that was. The OG iPod. So, let's go ahead and get into this thing. The iPod Classic, stylized and marketed as the iPod Classic originally, simply just the iPod. The OG is a discontinued portable media player created formerly and marketed by Apple. I wish they still made them. There were 6 generations of the iPod Classic, as well as a spinoff, the iPod Photo, that was later reintegrated with the main iPod line. All generations use a 1.8-inch hard drive for storage. The Classic suffix was formally introduced with the rollout of the 6th gen iPod on September 5th, 2007. Prior to this, all iPod Classic models were simply just iPods. That's what I've always known it as. I didn't know them as iPod Classic until I started this thing. The first release of the iPod was in 2001. It was part of the line that was called Classic. It was available in silver or black from 2007 onwards, replacing the signature iPod White. In September 9th, 2014, Apple discontinued the iPod Classic. The 6th generation 160 gigabyte iPod Classic was the last of the Apple product to use the original 30-pin dot connector. Man, that was a great connector. And they said, we're never changing our connectors. Then you got the Lightning, and then you got the USB-C. And now I get USB-Cs with anything I buy. Bring back batteries, guys. Bring back batteries. All right. Technical information. The user interface iPods with colors, displays, anti-line graphic, alias graphics, and text with sliding animations. All iPods have 5 buttons, and the later generations, 4th and above, have a button integrated with the click wheel. That was the coolest thing ever, because then you can just scroll through your songs by changing the wheel. The designs, which gives uncluttered, minimalist interface. The circuitry contains multiple monetary button switches. The buttons are menu to go backwards, forth, and through all the different things. Turn the backlight on. The center to select menu items. Play, pause, skip forward, skip backward, fast forward, and rewind. The operating system and firmware. No one cares about that. Let's get into the history of this thing. All right, additional features. In 2002 of March, Apple added a limited PDA-like function. Text files can be displayed while contact schedules can be viewed and synchronized with a host computer. Some built-in games are available, including Brick. That was a great game. Parachute, Solitaire, and iPod Quiz. A firmware update released in September of 2006 brought extra features to the 5th gen iPods, including adjustable screen brightness, gapless playback, downloadable games. However, of September 30th, 2011, these games were no longer available in the iTunes store. All right, so history, you got the 1st gen, which came out in October 23, 2001, with the slogan, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Man, now we got 1 million songs in our pocket. They went on sale of November 10th, 2001. The first iPod had a monochrome LCD display. Screen featured a 5 gigabyte hard drive. That's crazy. Only 5 gigs. Capable of storing 1,000 songs, and it was priced at $399 USD. Among the iPod's innovation, they were small in size with a 1.5-inch hard drive, whereas other HDD competitors were using 2.5-inch hard drives at the time. And it's easy to use. Navigation, which was controlled using the mechanical scroll wheel. Unlike later iPods, this one had touch sensitivity scroll wheels, which had the touch. Yeah, this one had the buttons that you had to kind of hit. The center select button, the 4 auxiliary buttons around the wheel. The iPod rated battery life, it was 10 hours, which was great because Back then, you weren't on anything for 10 hours. Oh, in March 2002, introduced the 10 gigabyte model, the first generation iPod, for $499. V-card capability was added, allowing iPods to display business card information synced from a Mac. That's cool. I didn't know that. All right, and then you got the second generation. Second generation was introduced in July 2002 and went on sale of August 2002. Using similar body styles to the first generation, the top of the iPod was redesigned, switching from a single swooping cutout in the back plate to mount the firewall port, hold switch, and headphone assemblies to individual ports being cut out of the back plate to allow these ports to be accessed. Furthermore, the hold switch was redesigned and covered and added to the firewall wire port. A mechanical wheel was replaced with the touch sensitivity wheel. The second generation class was available for 10 gigabytes at $399 or 20 gigabytes at $499 USD. The first generation 5 gigabyte iPod was carried over, but its price was reduced to only $299. Notably, the second generation iPods and the updated first generation iPods were now Windows compatible. This was before iOS. These versions came with a 4-pin to 6-pin FireWire adaptable, were bundled with Music Max Jukebox. At the time, iTunes was Mac only and unavailable for Windows. So, because it was running on Windows, it wasn't running on Mac, iOS. It was just running on Windows. In 2002, Apple unveiled its first limited edition iPods with either Madonna's, Tony Hawk, or Beck's signature No Doubts band logo engraved on the back for an extra $50. I bet getting Tony Hawk's iPod in 2002 while you're playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, couldn't beat it with the wired headphones. That's top tier. All right, and then you got the third generation. 2003 April, Apple announced the third generation went on sale of May of 2003. Thinner than previous model, third generations replaced the FireWire port with a new proprietary 30-pin lock connector and introduced the touch wheel, completely non-mechanical interface with 4 auxiliary buttons located in the row between the screen and the touch wheel. The front plate had rounded edges. Rear casing was slightly rounded as well. The new wired remote connector was introduced, whereas the first and second gen iPods had auxiliary rings around the headphone ports for the remote. The third generation iPods had a 4-pin jack adjacent to the headphone port. A 10 gigabyte model was sold for $299, 15 for $399, and 30 for $499. All iPods were now compatible with Mac and Windows out of the box, simply requiring Windows users to reformat the iPod before use of the PC. Both iTunes and Music Match Jukebox were bundled with all iPods. Battery life was reduced to 8 hours, partially due to the smaller size lithium-ion battery opposed to the lithium polymer battery. Daggone environment. Should have stuck with it. The 15 gigabyte model was replaced with 20 gigabyte, and the 30 gigabyte was up to 40 gigabytes by September 2003. The Windows-based music jukebox software was made obsolete and replaced with iTunes 4.1, the first version available for Microsoft Windows. Awesome. And then you got the fourth generation announced on July 2004. The fourth generation replaced the touch wheel from the third generation iPod to the click wheel from the iPod mini, putting the 4 auxiliary buttons underneath the touch sensitivity scroll wheel. The casting was also slightly slimmer, pricing reduced, and the lineup was simplified. The 20 gigabyte sold for $299. The 40 gigabyte sold for $399. Notably, Apple began reducing pack and accessories starting with the fourth generation. While dock, carrying case, wired remote were previously included in higher-end iPods, The higher level 40 gigabyte iPod only came with a dock, earphones, and interchangeable proprietary cable of USB and FireWire interface. In addition to using iPod Mini's click wheel, the fourth generation iPod came with more energy efficient components of the Mini, allowing the fourth generation iPod to go over 12 hours of battery life. Oh, here we go. This is my favorite. A special U2 edition. U2 and Apple go way back. If you don't remember, in man, what was that? 2010, when YouTube got all onto everybody's iPhone. Everybody's iPhone. If you had iTunes, you had YouTube in like 2010, I believe, 2012 maybe. But everybody had YouTube. So they go back to 2004, where they cross-market YouTube's How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb album with a plastic front piece of U2 edition iPod. Black with the scroll wheel was red to coincide with the album scheme, with the 20 gigabyte signatures of all four members of the YouTube special edition iPod was priced at $349 USD, which included a USD $50 coupon for a $149 collection of the YouTube's entire back catalog. YouTube iPod customers also received 30 minutes of exclusive YouTube video downloadable from the iTunes store. Yeah, no thank you. They already forced you to own us. I don't need that. Awesome. And then you got the iPod Photo, which was basically an LCD screen where you could have photos. It's between the fourth and the fifth generation. Let's read a little bit about it. On February of 2005, both 40 gigabytes model of photo and regular were replaced with a slimmer, lower price 30 gigabyte photo model, leaving the 20 gigabyte black and white iPod left. The price of the 60 gigabyte model was dropped to $499 with fewer bundled accessories, making the dock, FireWire cable, television cable, extra cost options. On the same day, Apple announced the iPod camera connector, which allowed you to transfer images from a USB digital camera to the iPod Photo. If you don't remember, you could, take photos on your digital camera, slap it in. They had the little converter. Man, that was cool. The main difference between the Belkin's digital original camera link was that Apple's unit supported instant image viewing on the iPod without having to connect the iPod Photo to a computer first. Man, that was cool. So then you got the fifth generation iPod with video. That way you could watch the iTunes videos for when music videos were a thing. All right, then you got the fifth generation. The fifth generation iPod was introduced in 2005 of October. Shortly after the introduction of the iPod Nano, the fifth generation iPod featured a 2.5-inch screen with a smaller click wheel. It was the first iPod to be able to play videos. The fifth generation iPod, sometimes known as the iPod Video, was the first iPod available in alternative color schemes, non-special edition form, as black option was added alongside the signature white. And marked the second full redesign of the iPod aesthetic and its rearranged proportions. It fully flattened the front plate and its more rounded rear casing. The 4-pin remote port was removed as well, causing backwards capability issues with certain accessories. 30 gigabyte model was $299. The 60 gigabyte model was $399. The fifth generation iPod was also offered as the U2 special edition. No one wants U2. The fifth generation was the last model to have a plastic interface. Well, they only made one more model after that, so. Alright. The fifth generation iPod was updated in 2006 of September. The model was officially known as the iPod. It is unofficially referred to as the fifth gen enhanced. The 5.5 fifth generation And this update included a brighter screen, longer video playback time, improved video decoding hardware, newly designed headphones, search feature, and iTunes installation CD was also longer, no longer bundled, requiring users to download iTunes from Apple's website. The 60 gigabyte model was replaced with the 80 gigabyte model. The prices were cut by $50 for the 30 and 80 gigabyte models. Gapless playback was supported for iPod games, was enabled on all fifth generation iPods throughout the firmware updates. Man, having to download iTunes though, they made it seem like such a hassle back then. But really, you just went on to LimeWire, and that's where you got your music, was LimeWire. And then you also gave your parents a computer a nice little kiss from a virus, and then they couldn't use it anymore. But you wouldn't have to download Apple iMusic. No, just LimeWire. All right, during a special iPod marketing event in September 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the sixth generation iPod Classic, which distinguished it from an iPod Touch based on the design of the iPhone. Featuring slightly thinner bodies, the sixth generation iPod also had dramatically improved battery life, claiming up to 36 hours of music playback and 6 hours of video playback. The iPod Classic 2.5 backlit display, resolution of 320 by 240. The front plate was made of aluminum instead of carbon plate plastic. The signature white was replaced with the silver. The sixth generation iPod also introduced completely overhauled user interface, incorporating more graphics, a cover flow. The iPod Classic was offered in 80 gigabyte models for $249 USD and 160 gigabyte models for $349. Crazy thing is, the more they make of them, the cheaper they're getting. Unlike iPhones today or any of their products today, the more storage you're getting as they go further down the line, the cheaper they're getting. But you go buy a new laptop from them today compared to a couple of years ago, it's going to be 3 times as much. This capacity distinguished it from the iPod Touch, which was limited to 32 gigabytes. 160 gigabyte hard drive was not fully ATA capable, not supporting 48 gigabyte LBA. Okay, that's a lot of technical words. But I mean, at the end of the day, so much cooler, especially having the wheel and having LimeWire. You didn't pay for music back then. I mean, I paid for music, of course. Everyone paid for music back then, but LimeWire was this. I mean, it was so cool. And then being able to, shuffle through the songs with just, man, those were the good days. Like Andy Bernard said, I don't want to ruin this quote. Like Andy Bernard said, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. And that's where I'll leave y'all today. Thank y'all. Have a good day.